everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jeff Huang from eXp Realty, your 2022 Educational Committee Vice Chair member. A few quick housekeeping items before we get started. All participants will be muted in the meeting. Should you have any question, please enter them into the chat box. The speaker will answer your questions during the Q&A toward the end. The session is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, West San Gabriel Valley Realtors. My awesome co-host, Gloria Zhao, who will introduce our topic and our special guest speaker for today. Gloria, the floor is yours.
Hi, good morning. My name is Gloria Zhao with Remax Elite Realty. Thank you very much for the chance of introducing Qiang. So Qiang Bjornbak is the principal and founder of law office of Qiang Bjornbak, which provides legal service to U.S. immigration law, China law, civil litigation, etc. Qiang Bjornbak has obtained admissions to the bar of the People's Republic of China and the State Bar of California for more than 18 years. Qiang Bjornbak serves as a California State Bar delegate to ABA House Delegates 2013 to 2015. She is also vice chair of Qiang Bjornbak ABA International Law Section China Committee. She has served as a special recognition award from American Bar Association. She has handled about 1,000 immigration and civil cases, about 100 landlord and tenant disputes cases. And some of them are very convoluted. She has given lectures to CR members relating to immigration, related real estate development issue, and cultural differences. I'm so happy to get a chance to introduce Qiang, and we're going to be having Q&A after we have your introduction about this topic today, which is 10 pitfalls, top 10 pitfalls of real estate transactions. Thank you so much, Qiang. The floor is yours.
All right, so thank you very much for the introduction. I'm going to share my screen with you and just bear me with a second, okay? All right. So the first slide says my information, and I try to provide as much information as I can during this limited period of time. And Gloria, do I have 30 minutes or 35 minutes to talk and then leave 10 minutes for Q&A, or?
I think that's great. That's great. 30 minutes, and in the middle, maybe we can have some Q&A and then we continue. How's that, Qiang?
Yeah, that's good. So I try to finish everything before noon so you can grab lunch.
Thank you so much.
But you know, there's so much I can share with a limited amount of time. So I better jot down the notes about my law firm information, address, phone number, email. So if you have remaining questions, you can always give me a call or email me.
Sure, thank you.
You're welcome. So pitfalls, you know, I always heard horrible stories about the real estate transaction, landlord tenant disputes. I bet if they do not have issues, they will not call me at all, right? So I heard is just bad stuff going on there. And I really want, from the bottom of my heart, I just want everybody has you know, has smooth transactions, you know, no disputes, because it's very hard for the realtors to make monies. And on the real estate transactions, a lot of risk. And the purpose of this lecture is through the storytelling style. I want to share with you some of my knowledge and a lot of laws and regulations on these issues. And hopefully I can help you to prevent these nasty things, from happening to you. So the number one lawsuit, more than 90% of lawsuits of real estate transactions are revolved with disclosure issues. I used to sell my own house to the potential buyer. What I did is a lot of issue on my own house, and I disclose almost everything. I even give them a disc. There's so much issues of this house and this property. If you want it, here's the stuff. Okay, I develop one copy to the escrow company and one, to the seller. But whatever it is, I disclose how much I can. Nowadays, if you can Google search any lawsuits relating to real estate transactions, they're about the disclosure. There's some real stories, it's terrible, but they're real. Okay, let me share with you the stories one by one. Number one story is mold. So the son-in-law tried to help the mother-in-law to sell the house. And he happened to have a real license. He figured it's a good deal just to be on the both ends. So he solicited a buyer and he represented the mother-in-law. And in order to cover up the mold in the part of the house, he painted over. So nobody discovered that the mold issue at the beginning, right? It looks nice. And then when the times went by, the buyer found out that the house had mold, and the seller didn't disclose it. And the seller is the relative of this of the sales. The listing agent is the relative of the seller. So all these things came out later, and it was horrible. And that the buyer and came down with illness because the mold, all those issues, in the United States. If there's a mold, it's have health issues. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars. So, and it went to the lawsuit. Of course, this real estate agent lost the case. And the lesson to learn is that disclose everything. If the buyer likes it, that's this hot market, right? And people are betting against it. All the buyers are betting against each other. It really doesn't hurt for you to disclose everything. Just say, hey, buy it. If you don't buy it, the other folks is gonna buy it. But I disclose that to you. Okay, so mold is an issue. Square footage is another issue. And sometimes when you do the listing, you might get the square footage information from the county assessor's office, but the assessor's office might not be accurate. So you put additional disclaimer on the listing. You say, oh, this might not be accurate. You need to do your own investigation. Does that kind of disclaimer really save you from lawsuit? Not really, from some persistent person. I read about the case. So the guy bought the house, and he never measured the square footage. The seller didn't measure the square footage before they sell the house. So finally, and many years later, the buyer need to resell the house. So he found out that the square footage was not accurate. So he bought the lawsuit. Guess what? He won a lot. He won. He won the lawsuit. Why? He said, you know what? You really got to disclose the square footage. It's a strictly liability issue. But anyway, all those things came out. And also pay attention to the square footage. Is that are these permitted square footage, or there's some illegal addition? Do you need to warn the buyer that these are not permitted area? You need to apply for it, or just put them on notice. Always put them on notice. Otherwise, they're going to say, oh, you know what? I don't want to have this deal. I need to overturn this deal because this contract was obtained by fraud. So according to California law, and if you obtain a contract through fraud, means you didn't disclose whatever the material facts to the buyer, and the contract is voidable. It's void. Although only void was void because it's just you cannot defraud somebody into getting a transaction with you. So this is the issue. Now, move on the other issue, the nuisance. You have to disclose the nuisance when you help your clients to sell the house. And it will pop out, or somebody die of the property unnaturally. You have to disclose. It's just, if the house used to, one of my friends bought a house that the prior owner used it for the marijuana growing. So you really got to know that and talk with your client, disclose that. And it can be a very nasty, lengthy lawsuits. I am a litigator. I can tell you the cost of the litigation. If you don't have the insurance, you had better file bankruptcy. Not just, not including the damages you're paying the other party. The amount of money you're paying your own counsel for 1 year is $150,000 to $200,000 a year. I just think this is not overreaching amount of attorney fee. It can be more than that. All depends on the arrangement between you and your counsel. So buy insurance, number one thing, always buy insurance, always disclose, always do something prudently. Because if you got into the litigation, you will be get out for a very short period of time. You might be get stuck. They won't let you go. That's the problem. Okay. Now, second one is to fail to review the detailed purchase agreement, including excluding item, removal, and contingency. That happened all the time. What happened is that the buyer's agent tend to be more aggressive. They want more stuff for their own clients. So what they did, they put, I want this XYZ in the purchase agreement. And then you fail to notice that. Then what happened later is that the seller had to honor the agreement. And for example, when I purchased a house recently, 3 or 4 years ago, I bought my own house, right? So I want this stove, I want a refrigerator, I want this and that. So the listing agent didn't cut it. So what he did is that he asked his own clients, the seller, to leave me with all those appliances. So I got it all. And you need to check your own client whether they're willing to leave this stuff with them. And then also about the remember about the we have staging, right? Some houses you need to sell those houses, so staging. The staging company come up rolling with the chairs and stuff, nice curtains and everything. And then the buyer didn't know it's just the stuff come from staging company. Say, oh, I want this curtain, I want this stuff, and right, the window covering a piece. So you had a bet. If you caught it early, you say, hey, you know what? We'll never have this. This is from staging company, and so that will save some of the issues, problems down the road. And removal contingency, another issue, because if you don't read it carefully, remove the contingency early or whatever, the buyer and seller, and then you say, oh, I regret. I have phone calls from my friends all the time. Oh, I regret about this crappy stuff. I have this is an issue. I said, what do you do before you remove the contingency? Have you done your homework? Have you done the home inspection? I mean, even that kind of situation happens all the time. See, the seller usually give you a copy of what do you call the property inspection, right? So if you represent buyer, you can pass this document to your client. But however, you insist upon the buyer needs to do an independent inspection at their own cost, because you never know what happened in the past. It works to protect you. I want all these agents, real estate realtors, can effectively protect yourself. If you're on the line, if you are here, listen to me. I don't need you to get me the money to fight the lawsuit. It will be miserable for you. Okay, I want you to save the money, but you have to listen to me. Do these extra steps. The other issue came out is the flip houses. Of course, you bought a house, you got the real the contractor to fix it and they sell it, and you really do not know the condition of a house because you never lived there. And there's another issue. A lot of lawsuits came from the flip houses. But so do your own homework before you sell it. And number three, fail to assess the risks of purchasing properties with existing non-paying tenants. Oh, I heard this whining issues daily basis. I used to get 2 or 3 phone calls a day about those kind of not paying tenants. You know, sometimes with the real estate property is so hot, so the buyer, you sometimes if you represent the buyer, be careful about that. The buyer say, okay, I will buy the house with the tenant. I will be in charge of removing these tenants, right? And in return, you got the discount for the sales price, for the selling price, right? So clients happy, you are happy, and sellers happy for a while until the buyer found out that he could not get rid of this tenant. In some cities, LA downtown, it was horrible, and they won't allow you to remove the tenant and just, you know, it gets stuck over there. I mean, even if it belong to LA County, and different city have different policies and all the stuff. So if you really want to remove a tenant, go to your own cities, find out what's going on there. Okay, so it varies. So from city to city, and county to county, and state to state, it's just terrible. In California, it's so protective. However, there's some good news. Check out, then you can reimburse the landlord some money if if it is not held under the LLC, it was held on your name, on the individual names, and a lot of issues if it's not the commercial purposes, right? On the 4 unit, all the stuff. There's all kind of requirements before you even can apply for some kind of benefit. Okay, so that means the government will give you up to around $80,000 if you suffer loss last year from the tenant not paying you XYZ. Okay, so do some research on that, and then also there's another law says that you can be reimbursed up to 80% of whatever they owned rent, and you take 20% of a loss. So I feel this very hard period of time for the landlord, and I will address this landlord tenant issue later. Okay, but be careful when you buy these houses, because if this tenant doesn't want to leave, he doesn't want to leave. If he was mean in the past, he is mean now. He is going to be mean in the future. And I helped some of the friends try to remove some of the tenants. I went down there with my clients. I find out the tenant put a bunch of cameras in front of the door, just monitor who was coming. And the tenant is never going to open the door for us to deliver some paperwork to him. So it's horrible. And I know the tenant was there. I heard the noises. I heard the dog barking. I just didn't see the person came out. It was horrible. But anyway, whatever you need to do and get them 3-day notice, 30-day notice, 60 notice, whatever is required by law, you need to give them the notice. Otherwise, you cannot remove them at all. So the number 4 pitfall is fail to screen the tenants properly by reviewing the tenant's background, their financial ability to pay tenant rents, their credit score, etc. I just say tenants from the hell. And this is a real story I share that with you. So it was my client. I helped a little bit, so she lived in New York with a husband. And the husband used to make tons of money. So husband invest in 2 high-end single family house at the Palos Verdes. Each house is worth about $3 or $4 million. So what they do is that the husband and wife live in New York. They cannot come here, so they lease out these two houses to the different individuals. So they are absentee landlord. That's an issue. I will go at the glance about this sort of absentee landlords cause tons and tons of issues for the real estate agent. So the real estate agent probably helped them to buy the house, right? So, and then they figured out, you know, I might keep this relationship by being friendly with them. So then the landlord say, okay, why don't you help me to find a tenant? It's very common. It's very, very common for the selling agent. And if you represent the buyer, right? You continue your duty to help your buyers to find a tenant, especially when the landlords are not in California, they're in China, they're France, or they're in New York or in Florida. So it's just impossible for them to find a tenant on their own. So they approached you, say, hey, do me a favor. You say, okay, why not? I'd be happy to help you. You can get the 3%, 4%, or 5%, whatever the percentage of the rental income every year. It's a fixed source of income for you. But this can be a problematic source of income for you as well. I heard a lot of real estate brokerage firms do not allow the agents to be a property manager at all because of the risk. Sure enough, happens. So the real estate agent solicit a tenant, okay? So for the landlord, and at the very beginning, he had the landlord, the tenant by himself, and the landlord brought the girlfriend. They came in there. They were normal. They're okay. But then they heard the news. Okay, pandemic came, and then we don't need to pay the money. So they figure out a way. I'm not gonna pay. I'm not gonna pay. I'm not gonna pay. So the tenants do not want to pay. In addition to that, the tenants came up with millions or hundreds of theories about why I do not need to pay you. The property was in bad shape, it's uninhabitable, and in fact, the tenant turn on the water tap, flooded the house. They say, oh, it's uninhabitable. And then they get the landlord, get the agent to repair this and the XYZ things, and the agent, just within a year or so, the agent was called more than 20 times. Imagine how miserable the agent was, because the agent represents both the landlord and the tenant. You know, they were putting, it's just you know what, it's a very, very bad position. So what I advise you is that if you are the listing agent, try not to solicit the tenant for the landlord, but if you have to, just do not represent the tenant. Let the tenant follow his or her own paperwork, because once the conflicts came out, you will be sued. That happens right now in this case. So in the end, the tenants refused to pay. So he's saying that the real estate agent defrauded him when the agent represented him, when he read the house, okay? So he was not going to pay, and turns out there was brought lawsuit against the real estate agent, and then they're going to brought lawsuit against the landlord, so nobody's out of hook. So this is what the tenant from the hell. And I strongly recommend you, the real estate agents and the landlords, be careful. You have to screen the tenants by interviewing them, not just talk with them on the phone. They can lie to you. They can never lie in front of my face. Every time I got a tenant, I sat down, talk with them. I say, okay, tell me XYZ. I observe the demeanor. If they are very evasive and not telling me the truth, sorry, you're gone. I don't want you to be there. Okay, you're better off not having a tenant than have a tenant from the hell. So this is the number one issue and you didn't interview the potential tenants, okay? You didn't do that. Second is that the tenant can provide the false financial documents. What they do is they copy and paste, some of the financial records, even sometimes the bank records not belong to them, but they forged the bank statement. And if you can catch them early, it will be great. Otherwise, you'll be stuck with an issue. So always viewing the documents in person, ask them to produce the original bank records. It's very hard for them to fake the original bank records. Just produce it. Number three is that they have bad credit scores. I always say if this credit score is below 600 or whatever it is, just don't take them at all. Because if they were late on one of payments, they can be late on the other payments. It's a judgment call, okay? I always take tenants who has good credit score, let's 700 above, or have a steady source of income. If the tenants works for the government, county or state, or they are not going to lose job within a day or so. That's a good sign. Number two is that if they work for a big company or just don't need to be a big company, get a stable business, right? And then you are better off. Let's say the tenant is a professor and is a tenure, is tenure in a certain university, right? So you expect that the tenant will be able to pay the rent, right? So there's a lot of flags and you need to be aware of when you want to recruit the tenants. I just say there's so many stories. I have so many stories. I don't have enough time to share all of them with you. But I pick and choose the most interesting ones so you can remember them, okay? And there's another kind of tenant I want me to warn you is that they came to you and act very nice and unnaturally. They volunteered to give you 6 or 7 months at one time with all cash. These people can be criminals, okay? Why? Normal people like you and me want to put the money in the bank, savings account, stocks, or investment, or whatever the vehicle it is, or you won't come up with all the cash at one time. I never carry cash with me. So how can you come up with so much cash, 6 months rent? Let's say the rent is about $3,000 a month, okay, $18,000. Not ordinary person can come up with this cash in the hand at one time. There's only one purpose. They want this for the illegal purposes. They're going to stay there and do something illegal, and then you cannot remove them because they already got the money, right? So I have this very good friend of mine give me a call. They say, Qiang, you can help me. I said, what's going on? He said, oh, Jesus Christ, the tenant was very nice, giving all the cash, and turns out the house turned into a marijuana house. So what did you discover? Oh, just recently I went there, and I find that they stopped paying me, and that I tried to leave them alone for months. And then by the time I went there and visited them and find out what's going on, and all the, these tenants gone, all the stuff, the house was trashed. So, and the landlord needs to spend $200,000 to put it back to normal. You imagine all this stuff and filled with marijuana pots and the stuff and mold and, the redo the wall and stuff. It costs you a lot. But if you're careful from the beginning, you won't be able to get it. And one of the policemen shared that with me. He told me, Qiang, you really got to share that with all the landlords and the builders. Put this one in a clause, say you have a right to examine the house every month or every other month, because marijuana takes time to grow. If you examine them every month, they will not be able to grow any marijuana down there. And that's the way to get rid of them. The second tip I have for you is that you put in the the agreement, usually the lease agreement has that you cannot conduct anything illegal, right? Growing marijuana is illegal, but you can put that way. Say, in addition to whatever the agreement is, I won't allow any tenant to grow marijuana. So if you grow it, they have to pay, you're liable for this civil or criminal, right, liabilities. And if the city comes up with a fine, you're gonna pay it. I'm not gonna pay for it. Because default is that the landlord need to pay for the penalties if the house has the marijuana. And second issue you're gonna have is that usually if they grow marijuana, what they're gonna do, they're gonna steal electricity at the same time. So imagine the horrible story. My friend said, oh, Jesus Christ, I want to, the cops visit and they left. And then finally the Edison don't want to resume the electricity unless I need to come up with the evidence. There's no marijuana down there, all the stuff. So it's a hell. Okay. All right. So the next issue I have for you is fail to meet tenant before lease was signed. 1 second. All right, I already told you that, right? So you have to meet them in person. You figure out what kind of personality they have and what kind of job they have, what kind of family, okay, they got. The single by himself or with the wife and the kids or bring their grandparents or something, and what they want to do, right? So unless you meet them in person, you cannot discover this information. You want to fail to run the criminal's record, it's very easy. Tell them to the what called the Cal DOJ, California Department of Justice. They have a live scan. Do a live scan. It's easy. Okay. Run the check, run the credit score. It's easy. All the stuff you have to, and ask them to produce the bank records, right? So bank statements. I'm sorry, because there is one purpose. It says that if they produce bank statements, you know how much money they have. Number two, if they default on payments, if you bring a lawsuit against them, you can enforce your judgment. They have a bank account. So always ask them to do that. Fail to sign the moving mark sheets. That's a horrible situation. I always form a habit. I have tenants, right? So I get them to sign the documents, say, hey, this is the current condition. When they moved out, I tell them, you have to sign the sheets again. This is the condition. Now, in between the 2 years, 3 years, whatever the year they got, the tenant lived there will be some wear and tears and also damages as well. And your first recourse is the deposit money you got, right? So try to get 2 months deposit at least 2 months deposit, because especially they have a pet, you need to have a dog deposit, the pet's deposit as well. That's on the top of this 2 months. Why? Because if you don't have it, they moved out, you're left out without any recourse, right? It takes time and energy to bring a lawsuit. Unless you're a lawyer like me, I can sue them. It doesn't cost me anything. But you need to hire a lawyer. It costs you some money, right? Even doesn't cost me money. It costs my time and to bring the lawsuit to court. So try not to have that kind of issue. So what's the difference between damages and wear and tear? Damages means, let me give you one example. Okay, I have this very slimy tenant and I have a very nice carpet. He burned a hole on it, or just he put some stuff on the ground. It's all blackened. Is this a damage or wear and tear? It's a damage. Now, what is wear and tear? You put the carpet down 5 or 10 years later, it faded, the color faded. You cannot tell the tenants to buy me a new carpet. No way, right? So if the light bulb went out, it's wear and tear. He didn't hit it, right? So you need to replace it. Now, one thing you got to do is that recall the current conditions. I used to got a tenant, it's like from hell. You say, oh, the property was such a bad shape. You say, what happened when you moved in? You find out, right? It doesn't work all the way it works. So the agent who helped me made the mistake, doesn't do the move out sheet. I just removed this tenant right away. I say, I pay you the move money, get out of the house. So he moved out of the house within a month or so. And I got a perfect perfect tenant down there. It never caused me any issues. So this kind of bad tenant, just tell them, I pay you the money, get out, right? But you need to set down the rule. Whatever you damage to my house, whatever the damage is, you got to pay for it. I made the rule, like if the tenant moved in, right? So he damaged the garbage disposal. And what I did, I didn't accuse him. I just said, okay, what happened? He said, oh, it doesn't work. I said, it worked when you moved in, right? He said, yes. And I got the warranty company comes in, examine. The warranty company say, no, so and so damaged it. No, it is not, it was not damaged by wear and tear. So I brought this result to my tenants, say, this is a conclusion from a professional agency, say that you so and so damaged it. I don't know who damaged it, but I'm a landlord, I'm not going to be responsible for the personal damage. So he agreed, I'm going to buy a new, he's going to pay, I'm sorry, he's going to pay for a new garbage disposal. I will pay the labor fee, and we're done with it. So remember that kind of issue, resolve it at the early stage is better once you come. And then also when the tenant always complain to you, this is bad and this is the issue, right? I always recommend you ask the tenant to email you. If you happen to be the property manager, ask them to email you. And then you email the landlord, right? You ask the landlord to email you as well. Why you need to do that? Because they have track of records, right? Within 24 hours, and you notify the landlord, and landlord notify the tenant, they're gonna repair. Because if you don't do that, they're gonna say it's uninhabitable, and I'm gonna pay the rent. So don't let them have that kind of excuse. Just deal it with right away. Buy enough warranty, buy enough insurance. Fail to come up with written lease agreement. That happens all the time, especially when you lease the property for a very short period of time to the students and somebody, and you really don't want to have a very complicated lease agreement. It went bad sometime. Okay, the relationship went sour between the landlord and the tenant, and when there was a dispute, there was no written language to refer to. And then you went to the court all about here's what he say, what he should say, what he so and so say, and it's bad. So always have a written agreement, even in a short period of time. 5, fail to follow proper procedure to evict tenants. You change locks, you cut off the utilities, it's illegal, and you cannot rely on your own resources to do that, because you need to get the court order and get sheriff to remove them. And there's one extreme example. It's a real story. The landlord is my friend. So landlord had a very nice vehicle, like a $250,000, very nice Bentley car in the garage, the tenant's garage, and he wanted to retrieve it, and the tenant didn't want him to come in. He says, I have possession of this property. So he called the cop, everybody called the cop. The cop told my client, you need to get out of here because this property doesn't belong to you, the landlord, the tenants. You need the tenant's permission to get in to remove your car. So be careful about that. So don't do that until you regain your position. There's one thing that you can regain is 1 by court order. Number 2 is the tenant abandoned the position spot. Okay. Number 5, fail to check the property regularly. I told you that. And you need to put that in the clause and say, I have a right to check the property every month or every other month. So that's all about what I need to say. There's some Chinese character, I bet you don't understand it, but it's my bio, but you already see my English bio, you don't need that again. Again, this is my contact information, and do a screenshot right now. So I am done with my speech, and I open the floor for Q&A.
Thank you so much, Qiang.
Hey,
wonderful speech. It's very useful. We all have that stories. Really, it's happening in our life. Okay, we have some questions. May I just go through this question one by one? Okay, first one, we want to have some print of this PowerPoint for notes. Maybe sometime later, if it's possible, we can get your PowerPoint. Is that possible, Qiang?
It is. It is. I guarantee you, I will send it to you Gloria Shaw. Okay, and
Thanks a lot.
yeah, I'll send it to you. This and give
Okay, great. Very good. Next one, Qiang, when you bought your house, did you initial that arbitration agreement?
I do all the time.
You do
Please,
all the time. Okay.
please do it, because once you initial it, and then that will save you times and energy in a courtroom. Believe it or not, courtroom is not very, sometimes are not very friendly. Okay.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're an Asian, good luck. Sometimes it's not really, and that happens sometimes. There's some people that even the jury member cannot be very fair to you. Aware of that. So avoid that kind of situation.
Got it. I think Jim Vega has that question, and then Charles is kind of answer the question for him. And he said, not everyone use CAR standard form. So some may not have that term. So let me go to the next question. It's brought by Buck Stepton. Can you change a term of the rental agreement not on a lease in city of Alhambra to remove the use of the garage? Or can you give notice to vacate to a tenant not on a lease, not for the course, to allow a relative to move in? Tenant is a senior citizen, city of Alhambra. Hopefully I get that question.
I saw kind of, I got some general picture of that. So it's not coherent meaning, but it's sort of gonna get it. And yes, the contract, even the model contract, you always can revise it. Okay, it's not the set in the stone. You can always add or remove some of the phrases. By I strongly recommend you to use the call form. And now call form was examined by the professionals, right? And don't have any loopholes. So use that form is better. Number two, let me see.
Okay.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Yep. The next
The
question.
city of Alhambra to remove the user garage, or can you okay, in the city of Alhambra to remove the user, I even don't know what's the meaning of the remove the user garage. That means you can turn the garage into
carport.
Yeah, or something, I don't know. Okay, you give notice to vacate a tenant not on the lease. Of course, you can give notice. You know, when the lease expires there on the month to months, you can give them notice. Not for cause to allow a relative move in. I don't know what I mean by that, but if you want to give notice to the tenant to move, that's fine. If a tenant is senior citizen or disabled person, be careful. Okay, they might have certain rights, and just aware of that. But anyway, always nice to negotiate with them.
Okay.
Even if he's senior, yes, you can remove them. It doesn't mean that he's senior or disabled, you cannot remove them. No, that's not the situation.
Okay, got it. Next question, Qiang, is from Joanna Liang. I heard it is legal to grow 6 marijuana for each adult. It is legal to put in lease or not to allowed? What can you do? Yes.
What you can do. Okay, let me answer the first half.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Yes, by law, all the adults can grow 6 pieces of marijuana in the backyard, right? The issue is that if you put in the lease and won't allow you to grow, that's an agreement between you and the tenant. That means the tenant cannot even grow 1 piece of marijuana. That's perfect legal. So you legally have rights to do that, right? And let's say, you know, I have a right to use XYZ things. I have a right to have a dog, right? You have a right to have a dog, right? But then I have agreement with you, say, hey, you know what? I don't want you to bring dogs to the apartment. Is that legal? Of course legal. It's an agreement between you and the tenant. You have choices. You move in the property without dog, right? Or you move to other property. I didn't deprive your constitutional rights to have a dog, but I just don't want you to bring dog on my property. Okay, so
see.
I answered the first question. So second
Oh.
one, what can you do if it's not exclude explicitly on the lease and later find out tenants quoted with the legal allowed number? Okay, that means, okay, if we never have an agreement and then the tenant grows 6 marijuana, so what, right? It's legal, it's not illegal. You don't need to do anything. I doubt whether if it grows 6 only. Usually people, when they grow, they're not growing 6, they're growing 600 or more. So that's the answer I have for you. Okay, can you evict? Well, if it is something illegal, yeah, you can evict. If it grows 6, that's legal. How you can evict? You don't have agreement. Say, I never allow you to do this, right? So you can evict somebody if somebody violate the lease agreement. Let's say you're saying that you cannot sublease it. The guy subleased it. And you're saying you should allow me to examine the property every month, and the guy don't allow you to examine the property, right? All this kind of stuff were viewed as the violation of the lease agreement. Then we're entitled you to evict them. And then also there was 3-day notice, then 60 notice, 30-day notice. There's a difference. The word entitled to a 3-day notice is anything legal. Let's say somebody used this house as a prostitute house, and it just, you cannot let the person stay there anymore, right? And you're entitled to remove this person. 3-day notice, gone. Okay, so that's it. And if they don't want to move and go to court and file some paperwork and UD forms, right? And lawful detainer, and go to court and ask the judge to remove them. Usually, it all depends what kind of tenants you have, the temperaments they got. Most of the tenants don't want to get involved in the legal process. They say, okay, rather than defend this case, I'm just moved out. Some of the people, like right before you file the paperwork, they moved out. But if they moved out and you still have recourse to get your money back, you by bringing a lawsuit at a small claim, it is not limited to $10,000 because of the rent. But you have to give them all the notice. I believe the car form has notice from March the 3rd to July 30th, right? And 2020, and then from August 1st, 2020 to September 2021, and then for October, they have different periods of time. They require you to comply with all the form, and you get notice. If you don't get that notice, and they require you to give them 15-day notice. It's some of the notice, not just 3 days, and because the back rent during the pandemic, they have longer time than notice, but then the landlord, the tenant need to provide you with the evidence that they cannot afford the rent because of the COVID. I have this very good friend asked me to take care of a house. So she is the typical example of absentee landlord. She went to China and then was busy with taking care of the in-laws, the husband were all sick and the kids were too young. So she said, Charlie, just help me to manage everything. I really don't know what to do. And then she has a tenant who is a lawyer. I don't want to pay the rent, and the back rent is about $30,000. So I sat down and talked with the lawyer, said, hey, you know what? You and I are lawyers, right? And if you don't pay, we can go small claim. And you have $200,000 a year income. So what I can do is that bring a claim and a small claim and adds on the legal interest 10%. Do you think you want to do that, or you want to move out? So finally, the tenant moved out, of course, and my client is very happy with that. But it always worked if you negotiate first. So how to work if you send a change term of lease form? I don't know. I always encourage you, the landlord tenant, would to avoid disputes. You guys need to communicate with each other. What's the reasonable terms? So if I increase the rent, I always text them or call them and say, hey, you know what, the lease is going up, and the market rate has gone up, but you think about giving more money or whatever it is. They didn't say, oh, I give you XYZ money, but in fact, whatever he offers way below the market. So what I did is I called the market, see, hey, this is a zero, this is this and that, and you're way below it. And do you want to move up a little bit? And let me give you a number. So then I didn't give him a number. He said, oh, let me just bargain down the all the stuff. He said, okay, I'll bargain down a little bit, make him happy. So the communication is very important, especially for a realtor, and your communication skill is a is a livelihood for you. Okay. So any other questions?
So far, no other question. Hopefully somebody will have question. You can raise your hand. We can give a chance to answer this question. So great, Chen. You did an excellent job. We really, really appreciate such a precious chance having you here talking to us, which is so beneficial for all of us, because as a realtor, we do want to know what lawyer could let us know more. So I think Jim has one question. Can I bring it out?
Yeah, he's asked me whether I do living
Do you handle
trust.
living trust?
Yeah, I do, and I do. Give me 1 second. I gotta tell you another horrible story and relating the living trust.
We love your story, Qiang.
Yeah, there was one of my friend is a tax lawyer. He has a very good friend and file tax with him all the time. So the guy just the gazillion, he's this billionaire, okay, it's a lot of money. And suddenly one of those days, he lost his conscience. He was admitted to the hospital. And the guy didn't pass away, but they didn't have the ability to execute any transactions. And the house gets stuck. People want to sell the house, right? And his hometown was in Taiwan, but then nobody can do anything. So in that situation, contact me, okay, before anyone, if you believe some of the client is going to lose the ability to say, to do some transactions, especially real estate transactions, contact me or prepare some power attorney. It can be a medical power attorney. That means before I die, you lost my conscience, but before I die, you can do some kind of thing. But the other power attorney is kind of financial power attorney. I did one for my friend, and then he was admitted to the hospital. He could not do a lot of stuff. He had a stroke. So he entrusted me to come up with a power attorney so my friend can go to a bank to deposit money for him and took the money out for him. That's through the financial arrangement of the power attorney. So doing that, and real estate power attorney, when you have the client in China and then cannot come here, and then they have relative here. So, but then these power attorney need to be notarized, okay, to prevent the fraud. As the living trust, I recommend everyone needs to do that because generally speaking, I'm not exaggerating. All the Chinese here, all the people on the screen got to have 1 or 2 properties. Now look at the real estate market right now. How much is each property? Everyone is a millionaire, right? So you can do it. That short answer is just you have to do it, and let me know and call me or email me, whatever you can do. You can add my WeChat, but WeChat, I have more than 6,000 or close to 7,000 people. I cannot check WeChat message every day. So text me or call me. Usually text me is the best way to do it because it's not disturbing me, and you tell me what you want, right? In a very short
Qiang, you have 2 more questions. Habla español? Do you speak Spanish?
No, no español.
Poquito,
Power attorney will work before the death. Yes, of course, it works before the death. That's the very purpose when someone reached the age of 90, 80 or 90 years old. At 80 minutes, any second, they can lose their power to do something, to say something and communicate. But if they can have and then otherwise you get a conservatorship, and it's a mess. And you go to court and get a court permission who will be the conservator, then can do the work. It takes some time and delay your real estate transaction. You have better off have a power attorney, somebody already have it, and then they contact you. Usually the person who is, you pick the one who is very loyal to that person, right? We can say the principal, right? They're loyal to the principal, and then the agent has a capacity to do some work. Let's say he knows something, right? Rather than somebody who doesn't speak English, don't understand English, do not know what to do. It's harder because you have to keep on explaining to this person what's this and about, what's that about. If he understands some English, can show them the real estate transactions documents right away, can read it, right? And so now if any one of you on the screen need to get somebody translate real estate transaction documents from English, Chinese, Chinese to English, let me know, and I will get somebody translate for you. Number two, and I don't speak Spanish, but I know a lot of good Spanish interpreters. Now, if you want to sell a property to a Spanish-speaking person, need to translate some documents, approach me. I will find a very good translator for you as well, because I'm in this field. I know somebody who is good at it. But always nice for you to inform them in their native languages, because they can understand it. They cannot blame. They come back to you, hey, you defrauded me because I don't speak English. They go to court all the time. They tell the judge, so and so defrauded me. So a realtor is so nasty, and the realtor, and then and then the listing agent and the seller's agent sue each other, and then your clients sue each other. It's a mess. It's a mess. The house works out, it's good. If it's bad, it's the old house, a lot of the problems, especially in hot market. It's an old house, has numerous issues, and then you fail to disclose it. Once they regret for this deal, and then they're gonna sue you. You are the first person that's gonna sue, is you. You figure out, oh, I'm your buddies who came out. No, and when the lawsuit came out, you're the first one to get sued. Okay, remember what I say. I am your friend. Okay, I defend you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Qiang. Perfecto. We have a comment on you. So it's very my honor, because I had a chance to work together with Qiang, because I have a buyer from part of overseas, and I will even have some buyer from East Coast. They are used to having a lawyer. Okay, here we do not use lawyer, we use escrow. But whatsoever, Qiang is your #1 source to go to person if you have any legal issue or anything you want to consult with. And then you have the phone number on the chat box. Please write down the phone number and write down the email address. And I would like to say, Qiang, we thank you so much. Our Western Gable Valley Association Realtor, thank you. We wish we can have a chance to have you here one more time. Thank you.
I will come back. I will come back, and I give you the WeChat information as well. Save it, and have a beautiful day, and worry free. If you're my friends, okay, you're worry free, and have a happy and a prosperous New Year. Okay. Thank you again for everybody.
Thank you.
So Jeff, Pauline, and our host, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So back to you, Jeff.
Right.
Thank you, Gloria. On behalf of West San Gabriel Valley Realtors, we would like to thank our guest speaker for your informative presentation today and our attendees. We have also an amazing lineup of useful and interesting upcoming classes. We have the Meet and Learn Good Luck Feng Shui Tips for 2022. We have how to get the IRS off your client's back and look like a hero. And of course, our 2022 real estate legal update, our 2022 real estate outlook. These are all our upcoming classes up in February. Please register on our website, and we'd love to see you there. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.